Children are the future of our planet, and if we don't look after them, our society will fall. Most children and kids are catered for pretty well, but a few are neglected and sometimes even forgotten about completely. In this video, we take a look at 10 children raised by animals. Dinar Sanashar lived at the Sankara orphanage after he was removed from a wolf's cave in 1867 when he was about the age of 6. He was discovered when hunters in the jungles of Bulandashar were astonished to see a boy follow a wolf into a den, running on all fours. They smoked out the wolf and her companion and shot the wolf. He initially exhibited all the habits of a wild animal, tearing off clothes, eating food from the ground. He eventually was weaned off raw meat onto cooked, but never did learn to speak. He apparently became addicted to tobacco in later life and died in 1895. The Syrian Gazelle Boy. A 10-year-old boy was found in the midst of a large herd of gazelles in the Syrian desert in 1946. He was discovered by members of the military and reportedly took an army jeep to catch up with him because he was so fast. Despite looking terribly thin, he was said to have been extremely fit and strong, with muscles of steel. Once the young boy was captured, the men had to bind his feet and hands so he wouldn't run off. The young boy was sent to an insane asylum, where doctors tried to cure the boy of his gazelle-like habits. Over the years of his captivity, the boy tried to escape many times, eventually leading to the guards and doctors chaining him up. The last reports about this young boy was written in 1955. He was still in an insane asylum then, and had apparently made little progress on his path to normality. The Nigerian Chimp Boy. Bello, the Nigerian chimp boy, was found in 1996 at the young age of around 2. Both mentally and physically disabled, Bello was more than likely abandoned by his parents, which was common practice in Nigeria at this time. Bello was found with a chimpanzee family in the Falgore forest, which is in northern Nigeria. When first discovered, Bello walked like a chimpanzee, using his legs but dragging his arms along on the ground. When he was housed in an orphanage in Kano, he would reportedly leap around the dormitory at night, disturbing all the other children by smashing and throwing things. 6 years on, from when Bello was first found, he showed no real sign of behavior change. And sadly, he died in 2005. The Ukrainian Dog Girl. Not really either a feral child or a confined child, but rather a neglected one. Oksana Malala spent much of her childhood between the ages of 3 and 8, living in a kennel in the back garden of her family home in Novaya Balogovshnekna. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. Ukraine. Although she did spend some time in the house with her alcoholic and neglectful parents. Oksana's alcoholic parents were unable to care for her, and at 3 years of age, she was exiled from her family home. They lived in an impoverished area where there were wild dogs roaming the streets. She took refuge in a shed inhabited by these dogs behind her house. She was cared for by them and learned their behaviorisms and mannerisms. The bonding with the pack of dogs was so strong that the authorities who came to rescue her were driven away in the first attempt by the dogs. Her actions and sounds mimicked those of her carers. She growled, barked, walked on all fours and crouched like a wild dog, sniffed at her food before she ate it, and was found to have acquired extremely acute senses of hearing, smell and sight. She only knew how to say yes and no when she was rescued. When she was first discovered, Oksana found it difficult to acquire normal human social and emotional skills. She had been deprived of intellectual and social stimulation, and her only emotional support had come from other dogs. Oksana's lack of exposure to language in a social context made it very difficult for her to improve her language skills. When first found in 1991, she could hardly speak. As of 2010, at the age of 26, Oksana resides at a home for the mentally handicapped, where she helps look after the cows in the clinic's farm. She has expressed that she is happiest when among other dogs. The Andes Goat Boy. The Andes Goat Boy was found in the Andes, Peru, in 1990, and was said to have been raised by goats for 8 years. He is supposed to have survived by drinking their milk, eating their roots and berries. Being wild, he developed the obvious feral characteristics. He tended to walk on all 4 limbs, with his hands and feet were hardened from scar formation, and they acted like hooves. He could communicate with other goats, but could not learn human language. After being found, the Andes goat boy was investigated by a team from Kansas University, who eventually named him Daniel. The Russian bird boy. In 2008, Russian care workers rescued a 7-year-old bird boy who could communicate only by chirping after his mother raised him in a virtual aviary. Authorities said the neglected child was found living in a tiny 2-room apartment surrounded by cages containing dozens of birds, bird feed, and bird droppings. The so-called bird boy did not understand any human language and communicates instead by chirping and flapping his arms. A social worker who was involved in rescuing the child from his home said he was treated like another pet by his 31-year-old mother. She never spoke to him. Russian authorities say the child was not physically harmed, but is suffering from Mowgli syndrome, named after the Jungle Book character raised by wild animals, and the boy cannot engage in any normal human communication. The Jungle Girl. On January 13th, 2007, a woman emerged from the jungle in Cambodia looking for food. A local villager noticed some food missing from his lunchbox. He then staked out the area and spotted the woman. Then, with the help of his friends, they caught her and took her down to the police station. When she got to the police station, she was immediately recognized by a policeman. The policeman claimed to be her father, and that she was lost in the Cambodian jungle at the age of 8 with her 6-year-old sister. The young woman found it extremely hard adjusting to civilized life and tried to run away very often. A Spanish psychologist who visited the girl reported that she made some words and smiled in response to a game involving toy animals and a mirror, but did not speak any recognizable language. When she was thirsty or hungry, she pointed at her mouth, and she preferred to crawl rather than walk upright. Many people think she must have been raised by some kind of animal in the jungle, otherwise she more than likely would not have survived. The Romanian dog boy. Turan Kolda is a Romanian boy who apparently lived wild, separate from his family for 3 years. He is believed to have left the family home because of domestic violence. His mother, Lina Kolda, said that she loved her son but had a violent partner who was always beating her. When she lost Turan, she was distraught and hoped he had perhaps been adopted by another family. She said, "When I fled, I lost contact with Turan. Although I tried to get him back, he, the boy's father, didn't allow me to take my child, even though I tried. He said the child belonged to him now." Although age 7 when he was found, Turan Kolda was only the size of a 3-year-old, could not speak, and was naked and living in a cardboard box covered with just a polythene sheet. He suffered from severe rickets, had infected injuries, and his circulation was poor, possibly because of frostbite. Doctors believe it would have been impossible for Turan to survive on his own, and speculated that he received assistance from the many stray dogs in the Transylvanian countryside. He was found near the body of a dog that he had apparently been eating. The Ugandan monkey boy. John Subasinya was born in the mid-1980s, but ran away from home, probably aged around 3, after seeing his mother murdered by his own father. It is generally accepted that John Subasinya was cared for, at least to some extent, by green African monkeys whilst in the jungle. John was found by a tribeswoman in 1991, hiding in a tree. She returned with menfolk from the village, and as so often the case, not only did John resist capture, but also his adopted monkey family came to his defense, throwing sticks and rocks at the villagers. Once captured, John slowly learned how to live life as a human, and even managed to fully learn to talk again, which is normally a very rare thing to happen with feral children. John now not only talks, but also sings, and tours with a choir around Africa. Kamala and Amala, perhaps one of the best known and most controversial stories of feral children. is that of Amala and Kamala. The wolf girls were about 18 months, Amala, and 8 years old, Kamala, when they were found together in a wolf's den in 1920 in India. However, it is believed that they were not sisters, but abandoned or taken by wolves, some years apart. The girls seemed to have no trace of humanness in the way they acted or thought. It was as if they had the minds of wolves. They tore off any clothes put on them and would only eat raw meat. They slept curled up together in a tight ball and growled and twitched in their sleep. They only came awake after the moon rose and howled to be let free. They had spent so long on all fours that their tendons and joints had shortened to the point where it was impossible for them to straighten their legs and even attempt to walk upright. They never smiled or showed any interest in human company. The only emotion that crossed their faces was fear. Even their senses had become wolf-like. The man that cared for them claimed their eyes were supernaturally sharp at night and would glow in the dark like cats. They could smell a large lump of meat right across the orphanage's 3-acre yard. Their hearing was also extremely sharp, although the voice of humans seemed strangely inaudible to their little ears. A poor but relatively well-educated man, Singhi did his best to rehabilitate these children. Influenced by the horticultural model of child development, he theorized that the wolf habits acquired by Kamala and Amala had somehow blocked the free expression of their innate human characteristics. Singhi felt it was his job to wean the girls from their wolf-like ways and allow their buried humanity to emerge. Unhappily, before his experiment had progressed far, the young girl Amala became sick and died. This proved to be a great setback for Kamala, who had only just started to lose her fear of other humans and the orphanage surroundings. Kamala went into a prolonged mourning for a while. Singhi feared for her life as well, but eventually Kamala recovered and Singhi started a patient program of rehabilitation.